This week, Multnomah County officials introduced a new proposal around one of Portland's most controversial issues, handing out tents and tarps to homeless people.
This is obviously a flashpoint between the city and the county. It's something that's really important to the public.
The proposal includes limiting how often and who is able to give out the supplies. Those at the county supply center will prioritize purchasing high-quality and durable two-person tents and repair kits. Licensed service providers doing direct outreach must agree to hand out one tent per person, along with shelter information and a list of where people can't set up camp. County officials promise to track all of it, and during severe weather, the supplies will be available to even more providers. Not all county commissioners are on board.
So I was disappointed.
It's hard to formulate thoughts about that proposal.
And from my perspective, we should be looking at ways and how we align with Mayor-elect Wilson's goal to end unsheltered homelessness.
We've probably handed out at least 10 times as many tents and tarps as there are people living on the streets, and it doesn't look like it solved our homeless problem.
This proposal caught the attention of John DiLorenzo.
It's ridiculous.
He's the attorney behind the 2023 lawsuit against the city of Portland, arguing the city was in violation of the American with Disabilities Act for allowing tents and tarps to block sidewalk access. As part of a settlement, Portland agreed not to let any contractors hand out tents and tarps. If the county's Joint Office of Homeless Services, which is contracted by the city, implements this new tent and tarp distribution policy, DiLorenzo says Portland could be in violation of that settlement.
We're on a collision course, and we're going to have to ask the federal court for orders to enforce the agreement.
I think the city and the county need to have the discussion together and not just have this be a decision made behind closed doors.
DiLorenzo is already planning next steps in federal court come January.
That could have easily been avoided.
Blair joins me now. So interesting. Why does John DiLorenzo say this could have easily been avoided?
So, Pat, remember, this whole thing comes as the city's partnership with the county's Joint Office of Homeless Services hangs in the balance. The majority of city council wanted to pull out of that agreement. That agreement really hinges on the city sending about $30 million taxpayer dollars a year to that county-led office. Now, many of the city commissioners wanted to pull out because they just weren't pleased with how the county was spending that money and just really responding to the crisis in general. Now, DiLorenzo was saying if they did pull out, the joint office would technically no longer be a contractor of the city. So whatever the county decides to do when it comes to tents and tarps would not put the city in jeopardy of violating that settlement. However, one day after the election, those same city commissioners, all of them running for office, by the way, decided to abandon that idea to pull out of that agreement. And last week on Straight Talk, Commissioner Dan Ryan told us why they decided to do that.
Well, Mayor-elect Wilson made it really clear that they would like us to table it. So out of respect for the new mayor, it just was good manners. And so that was the first. And the intention is still there. The intention for all of us is to improve the system. I think we can all admit the system needs improvement. I think we also need to take some time to all figure out what our North Star is. And I've been a little frustrated over the last few years that I haven't heard that, not just from the city and the county, but also Metro, who continues to play a very big role.
All right, Blair, but let's get back to that policy. I understand not even all the county commissioners are on board.
That's right. So a big sticking point for them and for John DiLorenzo is why county leaders believe it is so important to continue handing out tents and tarps. They argue it's life-saving. A lot of people agree that it can be life-saving in some circumstances, like during severe weather, not more life-saving than being inside. But this week, the big issue was who county officials talked with to gather that data. They said they talked with homeless people and service providers.
They interviewed stakeholders. Well, it turns out that the stakeholders were service providers and those with lived experience. Well, of course, people who want tents are going to want the county to continue handing out tents. And of course, nonprofits that are distributing tents are going to want the county to go on distributing tents. I have no idea why we had to spend county funds to generate fancy pie charts and a survey to show that.
All right, so this policy is not permanent. They're going to review it twice next year, once in the spring and once later on in the year.
Interesting stuff. And what happens between now and then?
So they're going to follow this interim policy and crack down on who can pick up these supplies. But also another interesting note that I wanted to add is on Wednesday, county officials told me they've actually run out of tents after the county chair told them to stop purchasing tents earlier this year. And they plan to start buying more come the winter season.
There's always something.
Always something.
Thank you, Blair. Appreciate it.